Alright, this is a video quickly following up the other one because I just want to correct myself. So in the program that we talked about in the previous video, we start off with creating a UNO service, and this is the name of the service. So if I refer back to the documentation, the service is documented here. Database context is a service, and it says right here, it is the context for accessing data source. Okay, so the key term here is this is the context so that we can access data sources. So data source contains information of how to create a connection to a database. So this is a step to make a connection to a database, and as a result, it creates the data source. So the next question is how do we get by name? So get by name as a method belongs to the interface called xNameAccess. Obviously, there's a detail here, but if you click on the interface itself, the interface talks about the methods, and one of the methods is get by name. So that's how in the basic code. Okay, let me switch back to the basic code. So in the basic code, when we get DB context, out of create UNO service, DB context then uses the method of the interface called get by name in order to get the database based on the name supplied as a parameter in the subroutine. So the next thing is to create a handler, and this is another service, and then within and this time I don't need to access any method of the surface of any one of the interfaces of the surface. And then DB is a data source, so it is worthwhile to click on data source. Okay, so let me go back at one level and then click on data source. So data source is its own service, and every service is broken up into multiple interfaces. And the difficulty of looking up the documentation is LibreOffice or OpenOffice would show you what interfaces belong to a service, but it doesn't show you on the same page what methods are in that interface. So now you have all of these exposed or exported interfaces that belong to the DB object that we have in the original code because it's a data source. But within here, it is not as easy to find how to complete a connection. You can sort of kind of click on each one, but this is the one though. X completed connection is the actual interface containing the method that we need to call. So when you click on this one, it describes that it has a single method, which is connect with completion. And in the basic program, we can see that that exactly is the method that we are using in order to make a connection. And what it returns is a connection. So in the documentation, it would describe what it is returning. So the return value is a connection. So when you click on that, it is an interface itself. So this time it doesn't return a service; it returns just an interface. So within that interface, we have the methods, and those are described here. We have create statement, which is what we used next. So when we click on create statement, it returns a type called X statement. Anything that starts with the uppercase X is basically an interface. So create statement returns an interface called X statement. So when you click on that, then we know what to do, what we can do with a statement. We can perform and we can do an execute query. We can perform an execute update, execute, and we can also just get a connection back. Execute query returns a single result set, which means the result can have multiple rows, and just like a usual select statement from a table. Execute itself does only returns a boolean, so it's either true or false, and then execute update is only useful for insert, update, or delete. I'm not sure whether alter is one of those, but it does not list alter here, so I'm not really sure. I haven't tried it yet. So this is the kind of thing that you need to do to kind of track down, how to do something. And the biggest part, or the most difficult part, is there's no easy way to find out all the methods that belong to a particular service, because the service will only list the interfaces. Then you have to kind of go in to the interfaces to find the method that you want to access. And if you don't know what method you're talking about, then it becomes even more difficult to kind of go through the documentation to find out what to do next. But it's all kind of neat in a way that it's like treasure hunting. So, or yeah, so that's kind of interesting. That's it. Just wanted to self-correct my previous video, so I'm gonna upload this one next.